All right, everyone, we're live. You can take it away when you are ready.
All right, welcome everybody to the winning announcement stream for our 100 hand challenge at New Masters Academy. This was one of our new monthly challenge events that we're doing via the New Masters Academy Discord channel. And each month we have a different challenge for students. And so far they've ranged from doing a self-portrait to doing more of marathon challenges like this 100 hand challenge. We've also had some other events as well, like the challenge for February is actually an animal drawing challenge. So if this is the first time you're seeing one of these events and you didn't realize that there was a Discord channel for New Masters Academy, or maybe you didn't realize we were doing these challenges, don't worry, these are free for anyone to enter. You don't have to be a New Masters Academy subscriber. Just follow the link in the video here in the description for the video. During this stream, we're going to be reading the comments that are coming in from YouTube. I've got that over here on this side, and I've also got the Discord live stream chat thread open as well. So I'll do my best to answer questions or react to things as they come up. So we're really excited to do this one. This was our first marathon challenge where it wasn't one piece or two or three pieces that we were submitting, but 100 hand drawings. And so it's been really exciting watching everybody go through this process. And I think I can speak for all of our judges, whom I'll introduce in a moment here, when we say that every single challenger seems to significantly improve. So I want you to keep that in mind. So again, this is a challenge, not a contest. If you are one of the three winners that were chosen today, congratulations. If you didn't win, the real point is that you're improving as an artist. So we really encourage you to do that. Keep participating. Try to learn as much as you can from each of these experiences, including the critiques and including the winner selection. So without further ado, I would like to, is it ado or adieu?
No.
It's adieu, like nothing much ado. Like much ado about nothing. So I just would like to welcome, we've got three wonderful judges this time. First, I'll start with our newest judge, who is Camille Corey.
Hey.
Camille, welcome, Camille. Camille's
Thank
a realist painter, and she's also a New Masters Academy instructor. She has one lesson on the site, but it's a very popular lesson on hand drawing, and we've been getting requests for like 8 years for more from her. So I just want to welcome you. Thank you for joining us. Camille is an educator and a painter. You can learn more about her work on her Instagram, which is Camille Corey. That's 2 L's and 2 R's, correct, Camille?
Yes, and a K. Camille is with a K.
Camille with a K. So that's at Camille Corey is her Instagram. She's also got a workshop coming up at the at BACA, where you can learn more about it at bacaa.org. That's coming up in October, and that is a figure painting workshop. So welcome, Camille. We really appreciate having you here.
Thank you for including me. Appreciate it. Yeah.
And so we do have our two returning champions. We've got Miles Yoshida here, who is the newest addition, or the second newest addition to the New Masters Academy website. I mean, it's a participation kind of thing. We'd like to welcome Miles. Miles is a fine artist. He specializes in ink drawing, really beautiful work. If you saw the image in the inspiration gallery, and also the thumbnail for this event is actually Miles's work. So I can't think of many people who can judge the hand drawings of others as much as Miles. So thank you so much for participating again.
Oh yeah, it's my pleasure. Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah, and of course, check out Miles's Instagram. It's actually one of my favorite Instagram pages to follow. It's hot fire. It's miles.yoshida, and he's just got really amazing work. It's really exciting watching his work. So I really recommend that you check that out. And of course, our next returning champion, Ilya Mirachnik, who is a popular New Masters Academy instructor. Ilya is a painter and draftsman, and currently teaches at Ringling in Florida. Is it Ringling University? What's the full title? Sorry.
It's the College of Art and Design. Yes.
Yes. So Ilya is also one of the coaches at New Masters Academy. He's one of our most requested coaches. So if you're looking to get some one-on-one feedback and one-on-one guidance for your art journey, highly recommend checking out Ilya. at our coaching area of New Masters Academy. Also, Ilya's on Instagram, another awesome Instagram page. It's at Ilya Miro, M-I-R-O. And also, Ilya is one of the hosts of a weekly live stream called Portrait Party Club that you can find on YouTube. I was recently a guest on that. It's a lot of fun. You guys get artists in, all different kinds of artists, and you do a collaborative drawing and just sort of chat about anything and everything. Is that a good description?
That's perfect. So, and definitely go and check out what Joshua and I hobbled together.
Oh Lord! in the last 10 minutes, somehow.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It is good fun. So yeah, thank you everyone joining. So I'm noticing the chat's already going. We've got people tuning in here. Welcome everyone. Welcome Vivian, DC, Jose, Mike, Vivian, and then I see in Discord too. It looks like Viv's in both. We have Nats, Manny. Welcome everybody. So we've only got 3 winners this time. We've narrowed it down. So the stream's going to be a little bit shorter. The challenge was to do, as I mentioned, 100 hand drawings. Now, there's a couple qualifications. One is that you're drawing your own hands. So you're not drawing hands that you found on the internet. You're not doing master copies. You're drawing your own hands. Photography was allowed, but we encouraged people to actually draw your hands in front of you. And so students were asked to use a mirror because obviously to draw your offhand or your primary hand that you draw with is harder. So we had some techniques on how you could do that. We did want 50 left and 50 right hands, assuming that you have hands and you have a right and a left hand. So there was different levels of challenges. Some students actually drew with their offhand and modeled with their dominant hand, which is very tricky, obviously. Other students used a mirror. A few used images. Now, the submitters were also able to do any medium that they wanted, any 2D medium. So we had some paintings, some digital drawings, some traditional drawings, but we were looking for the same things, I think across the board, the judges were. So again, just really, really thrilled to see the amount of effort. I'm assuming that everybody who did this challenge sees their own improvement because it's so obvious, but if you didn't, I just want to give you a little extra encouragement that we were really, really blown away. So the winners, the first place winner is going to be getting a $150 art supply gift card. They're also going to be receiving a master box, which is a box of materials. That's a partnership between New Masters Academy and one of our favorite art material manufacturers, Faber-Castell in Germany. It's really awesome. It's got polychromos pencils. It's got fancy erasers. It's got some like a Conte kind of sticks. It's really, really nice kit. All 3 levels are going to be winning that. And then first place is also getting a 1-year scholarship of premium access to New Masters Academy. So if you've already got a subscription to New Masters Academy, you can actually gift that. You can gift the premium. And everyone's winning a Discord winner role, of course, because you got to flex on your other students. And second and third place are also going to be getting gift cards. Second place, $50. Third place, $25. Everybody gets a master box. Everyone gets the Discord role. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start with our third place winner. And so we've only got 3, so we can spend a little more time. And because it's 100 images, we can see different images from that same person. And maybe somebody wants to chime in, because there was some conversation on whether we should look at the set as a whole. But I know that there was a particular attention placed on the later work, like the improvement. Is that fair to say, you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
So, yeah, that being said, we placed these in order. So as we sort of go through a slideshow of each of the winners' work, we'll see where they started and sort of where they ended up. So our third place winner is MJ Lang. And if any of our judges want to make a particular comment about one image, we can stop. But otherwise, I'm assuming we can just sort of rotate through these, starting at the beginning. Ilya, perhaps you can start us off by talking about what you found so strong about this work.
I think what was particularly interesting here was the enormous amount of progress, and I think we all kind of spotted that there was, especially at the point where there was a large amount of photone introduced, that they really began to improve. So I think what we also spotted, and I mean, okay, I'm not going to speak for anybody else. I think everybody's
Oh,
here.
go ahead.
But it was just interesting to see how there is a lot of hesitation in like a lot of these outlines, and but then things really began to come together, especially, and are these earlier, I imagine, right? The ones that we're looking at currently.
Yeah, it looks like the pages are numbered in the bottom right
Yeah.
corner. So this is 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. Yeah.
And there's a lot even here that you can see, like even as there is a tonal quality introduced, they become a lot more interesting. On top of that, I do think that there's also, in a lot of the cases where there's a combination of only outline and then like and tonal emphasis, that really becomes interesting because there is in fact emphasis, right? Like I feel like I'm being told what's important, what isn't important. And I always think that is definitely it's something I quite admire in artwork, right? When there's a clear when there's kind of a goal in mind in the artist, and it passes on to me as the viewer. So yeah.
So Ilya, maybe it would be easiest if we just proceeded to do the critique as well, one at a time. So maybe you could also give us some feedback on what you think MJ could work on, and also Liz or Kel, whoever's doing it. Yeah, let's continue to move through these unless one of the judges asks us to stop, because obviously the more interesting ones are going to be later in the challenge.
Later on, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we can just sort of cycle through it if that's possible.
I think that would be good also. Yeah.
So room to improve.
The outlines, especially earlier on. So like you end up beginning to control them as you go, like as you add in, like, anatomy and all of that. But earlier on, and that's not necessarily a problem, right? Like it's okay to be sort of unsure and confused earlier on, and then add. But like even what we're looking at the moment, it takes you a while to establish that thing that I was talking about, right? To establish that like kind of emphasis in one or two areas. But that's already possible to do in the outlines earlier on. And so that would be nice if that appeared earlier. And I think that's extremely possible because it's already happening. So like I think you can just be thinking ahead a little bit in that way. I mean, and of course, I can go on about like anatomy and all that, but but the same kind of comment, right? I'm not talking about anatomy as a whole, right? Like we're not talking about the construction of hands here. The construction of hands here. I think once again towards the end, you achieve it, right? Like they become a lot more anatomical. But I definitely think that's possible to introduce at an earlier point in like as you're just moving around the page and finding that hand on the page. So yeah, think ahead. I think like allow it to happen organically, as I think it happens here, but also control it. Like, so the thing that my teachers were talking about a lot was that if at a certain moment I tell you that it's over, right, your time is up, and that's all you have, it still already has to have all the important hierarchical elements, right? Like you still need to have that emphasis. Now, I don't agree with that maybe 100%. However, I do think that definitely is a criticism that could be applied here.
Yeah, that's really good advice. So do you think maybe going slower would help in that particular critique, Ilya?
Yes, potentially. Like earlier on, absolutely. Yeah. And but like it only seems like you're going slower, right? In the end, you're probably going to be able to execute them a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's interesting. It seemed like there was a theme in the conversation about the process, but also obviously where we end up. Miles, maybe do you want to add your thoughts about MJ's work? And somebody said congratulations, Mike. So I think this might be Mike Lang. But
Okay.
I apologize if I'm wrong about that, MJ.
All right, I'll just stick to MJ, but I'll just talk about what I liked and what I didn't. I'll just do it that way, really simple. I think looking at MJ's set of work immediately as we cycled through. We were looking through for improvement, obviously, is one of the criteria, which is effort kind of. But we really, or I personally really liked the improvement in the work, especially as Ilya was saying, just to reiterate what he was describing is kind of the intensity of the tonal development of some of these later works, found that they really enhanced these drawings. So that's clearly a strength of this artist, is the more time that they spend on a piece, the more they develop it, and they benefit from that. Some people overwork things, you know, so it's good to see that this person puts in the extra work, and the fruits of their labor are there for us to see. Also, I thought these were nice gestures. We looked at a lot of gestures in our meeting, and MJ's set contained a nice variety of multi-hand and single hand, and just an intelligent approach to the hand gesture with grouping of the fingers and just the various angles in these things. So that was nice to see. Also, MJ really tackled foreshortening quite a bit, which is something I noticed, that, you know, foreshortening can really trip up an artist, like even a seasoned artist. Foreshortening is something that we struggle with because we're not used to looking at things in that sense. A lot of people really prefer like a profile of something, a shape. You know, we're used to shapes in our mind's eye. So when we're dealing with foreshortening, we're compressing a lot of the outlines. A lot of the curvature becomes much more voluptuous. Things like that happen that we can't really mentally anticipate unless we've done these drawings over and over and over again. So I was happy to see MJ take on a really difficult sort of angle, that foreshortened angle. I will say though, that it looks to me, and I might just be assuming, but whatever, just let me assume, that a lot of these are taken from photographs. So I don't have a problem with that. The only thing that I can say is that there are pitfalls when you're using photography as a source. And one major pitfall is lens distortion. So unless you want to be, you know, a comic book artist with really dynamic perspective and Spider-Man's fingers coming straight at the camera like this, you know, that's one thing. But here, I don't know if that was the intention. So when you're dealing with using photography, just be aware that there's going to be a lot of distortion taking place. And what happens is your proportions can kind of look goofy. So that's something that I noticed. There would be one where it looked like the hand, you know, is maybe at a nice distance from the camera lens, and everything feels kind of in sync. But then we get these other images where it looks like a finger might have been close to the camera. I don't know, you know, how they're orchestrating this, but I'm noticing that the drawing suffers for it. Some of the proportions feel funny. Maybe not on this particular page, but I noticed it earlier. And and that's my biggest thing right there is the photography. Just really be aware of that, because there is a skill to using photographs, especially if you get into, you know, you become an artist where you make a living off commissions or something like that. You're going to be dealing with a lot of photography, and you really need to be a master of that too, so that you can control your reference. And lastly, I think Ilya might have mentioned it, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating, but I would like to see an improvement in line quality. So I think that there's a really nice open form drawing taking place here, where there's like some sfumato smoke in the background, and it's very painterly, right? But I would like to see in some of those line drawings that were submitted a little more delicacy, perhaps some quality of line, as we say. I would like to see more of that. It felt a little scratchy. It felt a little bit wandering. I would advise that really try to nail down some of these lines, because a great, beautiful line is worth more than a whole drawing full of misguided ones. You know, even if all those misguided lines kind of somehow tangle together to make a drawing in the end, really focus on nailing down some beautiful lines. And I think that these drawings would really improve from that. But otherwise, it was a really wonderful set, and it deserves to be here. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great advice. It's so funny that you just said what you said about perspective, Miles, because I was just lecturing on that on my last live stream, where you're talking about in the context of photography, but I've also noticed that there's just a trend right now to really push the convergences. So even for heads or whatever, people are putting them in these 3-point perspective boxes. And I was trying to draw attention to the students' attention to the idea that, like, throughout art history, that kind of effect was suppressed. And I know that Ilya in his course, when he's doing the figure, the full figure, like almost life size, he talks about how in the Repin Academy they would lower their vantage point because they don't want to draw feet the way that a camera sees that. Not to get off topic, but Ilya, would you mind commenting on that? Because I'm curious. This is like a kind of a juicy topic, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was exactly what you were just talking about. You want to try to minimize it. I mean, the interesting thing is, it works in some cases. I think what we would try to do is to reduce that perspective in work that was smaller, because then it looks, I think, like it looks extremely photographic. When when you're working on a piece that's enormous, as some of ours were, then you have a little bit more of a chance to play with that, because then you're kind of you're imitating the kind of perspective and the angles that would actually appear were if you were standing in front of a person, right? Like if you're standing in front of them. And so I do think, I mean, I'm a fan of kind of over cranking it also in some cases, but I think it has to serve a purpose, right? And it has to serve a purpose. And even that's a reason why I like photography in some instances, right? Where it just allows me to see this in this new way. Yeah. And I feel it has that extra emphasis on that, like, you know, on a particular plane that's coming at us almost.
Yeah.
And that's awesome if it helps if it enhances the idea that you have for the particular image.
I'm so sorry. I just realized that the time is slipping away faster than I realized. Camille, I know you only got until 2:40. So just on your behalf, I just want to make apologies for this. This was something we knew ahead of time. We were running a little late with the stream. It's actually my fault. So Camille, if you have to leave before we get to the final one, because I actually think the conversation is really good. I actually would rather not rush it along if we can avoid it. But if you have to leave early, we'll do our best to channel you and in your comments here. But maybe you could give us your thoughts on this piece, you know, while we have you here. Sorry to cut you off, Ilya.
Okay, no. And sorry I have to leave early today, but I was going to say, I don't want you guys to rush it either. I think the conversation is great, but if I have to leave before I give a critique to the other winners, if anybody wants to DM me via Instagram, the other two winners, I'm happy to give my critique. I would love to do that. I can give you my email through that or whatever. But as far as MJ, excuse me, Mike, the things that I liked, and I'm going to be just really brief here, but I liked the line work. I thought it was really expressive as we got towards the end, the final drawings of his, and that was really nice to see the improvement as it just got more confident and more bold. I really like that. I like the gestures as well. We touched on that. One of you guys touched on that before. I felt like, well, all of the winners had some really good gestures in there. And one thing I really liked with the gestures, you had mentioned foreshortening, which I agree with, which was fantastic to see because it's so challenging. But I also liked, I think, I'm not sure it's on this one, but there were a few of them that had some really good thumb studies. And the thumb is really challenging on the hands. It's such a separate kind of section of the hand, and the way that it attaches, it makes it incredibly hard. It has one less joint section than the other fingers do. But there were some good gestures that I felt like he was really looking at. The way that the thumb functions and attaches to the hand, and that made me really happy. And I like the lighting, just some dramatic lighting, but also within that, there were some studies where he's really working in the shadows. So he's really looking at form in the shadows, and I thought that's fantastic. I like seeing that, and I thought it was pretty successful towards the end of the studies. So really great job.
Yeah, do you think that's a bad habit, Camille? Because I'm not sure how everyone else feels, but I know personally just dropping the shadows into oblivion, which is a really popular way to handle it, bothers me. Is that just like general advice you have, or it's just in this case you liked it?
It completely depends on your project. I mean, it's if you're just dropping the shadows off and you're avoiding understanding the form or working the form within the shadows, then no. But if it serves the greater purpose for your painting or your drawing, then fine. But at least, as you know, this is a hand challenge where you're really studying the hand. I don't feel like we're making masterpiece paintings or drawings with these challenges. So I think that when I'm seeing them like really look at what's going on inside the shadows to try to understand that, as well as what's happening in the lights, I found it to be pretty beneficial with this. But you know, but the details still have to be, in my opinion, just in general, not all the time, but in general, I like details to be subordinate to the overall effect, and the overall effect has a lot to do with lighting. So, you know, if you get too detailed in the shadows, to me, you end up chopping up the form visually, or you kind of chop up the effect of the whole. You know, in general, there's always exceptions to this, but
yeah, I remember a lot of conversation during the judging call about that, about the overall impression. It seemed like that was something that all of the judges, I think, agree on was really effective here by MJ, was creating this overall look at the end.
Right. And then the things that I think that can be worked on, and these critiques, I kind of had a very similar critiques for all three winners. But it would be to really work on the joints, specifically where the hand joins the arm, which is the wrist area. And I think this goes along, whether you're working on hands or feet, where they join the limb. It's so important. And a lot of times we kind of forget about the wrist or the ankle, you know, or the knee or the shoulder. And it's as important as any details in the fingers, the tendons. But there was big improvement on that too, from the start to the finish of these studies. Proportion is another thing, also had a big improvement on proportion. And, you know, possibly if there's photography being used, that is going to affect that a little bit. And then one thing I wanted to say about this is to really look at the side planes of the hand. We kind of think about the back of the hand and the palm, but a lot of times we forget about the side planes and how thick or thin the hand really is. And a lot of times, especially if you're using photographs, you don't understand the solidity of that hand in space and how much space it takes up, how thick it might be. And a lot of times students will end up making these kind of pancake hands that are a little too flat because they don't really understand the structure. But it's the same thing. This also had a lot of improvement towards the end of the studies. So
do you recommend boxes for that? Imagining the boxes and trying to get as many outside?
I think it's a good technique. I think I don't personally use boxes when I'm drawing myself or teaching, but you know, everybody kind of resonates with different techniques. For me, the boxes aren't, I think there are, for myself, there's better ways that I can understand the form, but yeah, the boxes are great. They work better for some people than they do for me, actually, but yeah, it's good. Yeah, good concept for sure. Yeah. So good job. Congratulations, MJ. Yeah.
Joshua, you're muted.
Sorry, Camille. I was just going to remind you that it's actually 2:40 right now. So I think if you have to leave us. Maybe those great words of advice are a good departing point to leave on a high note.
No, thanks, you guys. And I apologize for having to jump out of here really quick, but so yeah, if any the other two winners, please DM me through Instagram, and I'll pitch in some critique on your work. And really impressed with the three winners. Big congratulations, you guys. This is a great challenge. Really happy to see it. I love hands. It's one of my favorite things to teach ever. So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
Nice to see everybody. Thanks for including me, Joshua.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See ya.
Okay, so MJ, yeah, again, congrats. Are there any more thoughts on this before we move on to the next section?
No.
Yeah,
Alright. Yeah, great job, MJ. So the winners, you are going to be contacted, I believe, by Daniel on Discord. So if you want to know how you arrange to get your prizes, you'll be reached out to because we have your Discord name. Fantastic. All right, let's move on to our second place winner. Our second place winner is AHS, but apparently that is Ashley Sherwood. So congratulations, Ashley. Maybe this time Miles can sort of kick us off on your thoughts on these hand drawings, Miles.
Sure, but may I ask Caleb or Kel, whoever's managing the images, can we just spend like 4 seconds per slide and just keep that rhythm going so that we can get through the whole sort of portfolio? Thank you.
Sure.
So yeah, I think everyone agreed when we saw Ashley's group of hands. There was a strong sense of structure to these, a strong sense of form, nice improvement, especially the improvement. Like that's why I kind of want to get to the end. I mean, this is a good pace, but especially towards the end, she's using multi-hand compositions with some really soft lighting effects and was just generating some really interesting artwork. You know, like a lot of these hand studies, it was nice to see them become artwork in a way. So it was just like a really consistent uh, consistent set of hand drawings that this I think I'm losing my train of thought because I'm also remembering some of what Camille was talking about because I remember she was really pushing for Ashley's work too. I think she was really drawn to it for some of its painterly handling. But yeah, I think Ashley's just kind of checked off all the boxes that we were looking for in terms of lighting, form, gesture, and effort. Um, to skip to the critique part, because I think it's a little more important than just kind of saying what's good, and is I would like to see a little bit of cleanup on these because this artist is so clearly a closed form person. They just love to close up the form with line, which I'm the same way. I love that too. I would prefer to see the line work improved. It feels very academic in a way, and I know that kind of I'm saying it like it has some sort of pejorative context, which maybe I shouldn't. But what I'm seeing are these lines, construction lines everywhere, right? We are generating curves of trajectory through straight lines, things like that. And what I see happen is that it's a really powerful way to approach drawing when you're a student of artwork. But there needs to be a point when you detach yourself from that. Otherwise, we just have a million people running around drawing the same French academic style, right? So I want to see some expression in these lines. They feel a little stale, the line work. I would also like to see some more detail extracted. Okay, because the soft lighting effects, the lighting grouping separating light mass from shadow mass is really wonderfully done. But just out of curiosity, I would like to see what this artist can do, really investigating the nuances of these hands, really getting into the secondary structures of the hand, not just the primary, and maybe even the tertiary structures, like little wrinkles and stuff. I'm not saying that's where you need to go, but in terms of a critique, that just might be a really great way to develop yourself artistically, because I did see that was lacking in a lot of these drawings. I saw it was a very strong foundation with so much potential. So using the same sort of keen eye that this artist has, I think they can just go much further, and it would be better for that. I would also like to see some exploration with materials, because these are very much, you know, it's all graphite. You know, one set after the other is all graphite. And like I said, I mean, they're beautiful. We really enjoyed looking at them, but it might benefit you to paint with ink, with a brush and ink, with a pen and ink, with a dip pen, you know, experiment with other mediums. And I think that you'll really start to see improvement all around, because I think anytime you kind of cross train between materials, you just kind of improve by like osmosis in a way. It just kind of helps. So yeah, it was like I'll leave it up to Ilya, because I'm sure he has some different things to say. But it was a really wonderful group. So well done.
Yeah, so I'll say this on your behalf, Miles, because I know you wouldn't say it yourself probably, but you should really look at Miles's hand drawings for exactly some of these qualities that Miles is talking about right there. I think those are really great examples of that being done really beautifully. Ilya's hands as well, absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I'll pass it to you, Ilya.
Yeah, thank you. It's actually quite interesting, but Miles and I probably agree on almost all of that. Like all the way, like going from these hands being a little look like kind of overly academic in a pejorative context. There not being enough kind of exploration of a medium. I totally believe in experimenting with everything that you can in terms of media, because each medium has its own personality in a way that is something that you have to allow it to, like that medium is going to tell you about that, right? And then you're able to take that and explore that same kind of aspect of it in something else where it might not be as obvious. And then that kind of it really opens you up to a lot of things that can happen on the page that might not happen on their own, you know? So yeah, so that's yeah, so we it's hard. So 100% on like exploring something a bit tertiary, right? Like especially like something small, right? Like just focusing even within any of these hands. And I think it happens in a few of them. Also, I just went into the critique for some reason. Yeah, overall, I think they're accurate. They're carefully observed. All of that, of course, and that's why we we picked these, right? So that's obvious, right? So I think though, I also think that there's a little bit of an issue, and this is not something that Miles was talking about, but I think there's an issue of the information in the higher halftones. Like, so where you do have some, let's say, calling it like some tertiary interest, right, is where that's a darker halftone that's about to hit a terminator, right? So at that point, you have enough contrast to explain that there's a crease there or some sort of skeletal construction or something like that. But in a lot of the cases where it's hard to do all that is where you only have like is where everything is pretty high key, it's only halftone, and you have to still tell us that there is something happening there. And here, and of course you have to get through 100 hands. I understand that, and they do definitely improve in that department. A lot of the times those halftones are just left empty, right? Because it's just like, but that might be an interesting place to actually concentrate, right? And really, they still need to have the proper relationship to everything else that they do from a tonal perspective, but at the same time, don't just leave them out because it's not so obvious what's going on in there. And that's when you have to kind of not just observe, and that's sort of the pejorative aspect of the academic approach, right? It's like if it's not something I see, then we're not going to put it in there.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say that Ashley's the strengths of these drawings also sort of happen to be the strengths of some of these academic approaches, and then the drawbacks are also the drawbacks of the approaches? Would all your critiques of the approach also apply just generally to this kind of drawing, Miles and Ilya?
Yeah, actually, that's kind of a clever way to identify it like that, to kind of compartmentalize it. But I think that one could look at it from my point of view actually as very much in that sense. It's almost like what I'm critiquing here about this is how I would critique any sort of academic work, if we're talking about artwork. But again, this was a challenge. Ilya said it was like a challenge, just so much to get through. And as he was talking and I was listening to his ideas and just watching the images scroll, I mean, how awesome would these all be, just all framed on a wall in someone's house? I mean, it's just great to see them all together.
Yeah, fantastic. And at New Masters Academy, we're teaching different approaches. Some of them are academic, some of them are gestural, more constructive, and everything in between. So if some of your critiques here are basically suggesting that you focus on another aspect, you can do all that on the New Masters Academy site. So, for example, Ilya's course, I know Miles's course is not out yet, but Ilya's course I think would be really helpful because there's more of it is, it's called the Russian Academic Drawing Program, the course is, but there is more of an emphasis on planes, there's more of an emphasis on form, and it's not just the kind of the East Coast, US, Boston, Florence kind of approach where you're dropping everything on the shadow side into a flat value, like Ilya's working into the tones. And so would you recommend that, Ilya, that course?
Halftones, like it's
Mm.
all kind of just evaporating into something that creates a lot of, in a sense, atmosphere. Like if you don't, like it looks kind of hazy and soft, and because of that, if it's accurate enough in terms of outline, it's fine, right? But that is like, that puts you behind in a way, right? There's a lot more that is possible. It doesn't have to end there.
Mhm.
Okay, well, yeah, fantastic critiques. I really appreciate it. And somebody actually just guessed who the first place winner is in Discord chat. So Viv, you get the Groundhog Award. And let's go ahead and move on to our next. Yeah, fantastic work, actually. Really beautiful, sensitive work. So I believe this is pronounced Peter. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. But this is our first place winner. And I guess this time, Ilya, do you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, if we can keep that pace. Well, okay. So the thing that I thought was interesting was that they actually started out technically not as good as the other two, and that I thought was like, but then as you like on the progress alone, I think Peter like has to get the award. And then what was interesting is exactly what we were just talking about, is that there was a lot of experimentation, right? A lot of, not only in media, but also in, like, it almost looks like there was a change in the technique in some cases. Like, it's hard to get into the, Peter's head 100%, of course, but it seems as though they started out, and there is what we were just talking about, like figuring out where the terminators are and then pushing everything else away. And that's interesting. But then that wasn't the only approach, right? And then something else happened where the halftones became a lot more important. And then here we can see a completely tonal approach. And then there's also painting and pen and ink, and all of that is just awesome to observe, right? And I think because of that, potentially, I'd like to think so. I don't know if you hear a lot of stuff in the background. I'm sorry.
A little bit.
Hold on, I'm gonna turn down the. Hold on. I'm gonna try this. Turn down the mic and be very close. So I'll do my. Let's see if this works. Yeah. So I think because of that, I think I'd like to think that because of that, there is as much progress as there is. And I'm always a fan of and effort is a category here, and I think it is important. And it's quite clear that, and even these particular tonal hands are not it's not like they add a certain kind, like there's an atmosphere and a mood that carries a certain kind of like, it's not simply a hand, right? There is a narrative behind each one and each approach, and I think that's picked up on and like expanded upon, right? And that's why I think these are as good as they are.
Yeah, I think it's great to see, like, you can see the student is going through the courses on our site that we recommended. You can see the influence of Steve Houston, you can see the Mark Westermo influence, and you could like see it coming together in interesting ways. And I think that was really nicely done.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of a critique, I think the main critique is probably I can't control that, guys. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
The main critique is probably, in a number of these cases, I would say and especially earlier on, so it's hard to really like pinpoint where these things like really improve and how they remain. I think it's a lot of the. I think here actually it would be good to observe and understand some of the anatomy little bit better, especially thinking about like the arches in the hand, because at times that arch is as I like to say, slightly overcranked, and other times it's completely flat. So
Can
like,
you show maybe on the camera what arch you're talking about?
yeah, I'm talking about like a combination of it's an arch that goes across like this, but it also goes across like that. And that's a very hard arch, right? That's very hard because from certain angles, it does look like a line, right? So in perspective, that's a complicated thing to capture. And in my opinion, Y hands are hard, right? Once that's established, and also I'm so glad that Camille did talk about how the carpus, right, up top here, is so important. That it's probably as important as everything else. I would say it's even more important, right? Like it's totally ignored most of the time. It's an area, once again, where usually you just have halftones, so it's hard to get that like the all of the information and anatomy into there. So once that's once that's something that's incorporated in your practice, hands become considerably easier. That's not to say they're easy all of a sudden, but they do become easier, right? And then we can think about, like all the other stuff that's hard. I think also there are times where the tendons are like on top of the heads of the heads of the metacarpals up here look a little imprecise, right? It just looks like you caught a highlight there or something, but not really understanding how they continue all the way. And once again, this happens in some cases, but not in others. And overall, there's this immense improvement. And I'm also, as I said before, a huge fan of all the pen and ink and the tone and how you've allowed the medium to push the idea, right, of each hand. So yeah, I'm done. After you, Miles.
Oh no, I mean, you really kind of touched on a lot of stuff I would have said as well. So I appreciate that. That makes me feel like I'm just not coming out of some strange perspective. Yeah, I think
both
just
of us are coming out of a strange perspective, and everybody else doesn't agree with us. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, Peter's improvement was just like phenomenal. It was just wonderful to see. And I think Joshua, you mentioned maybe he was going through some of the courses, and I mean, it's just really great to see someone actually utilizing, benefiting, and absorbing the information and applying it. And it was just so crystal clear from the first page to the last. I mean, this person just made leaps and bounds in their work. Again, a huge just props to this artist for the variety of materials and understanding that there are limitations and strengths to each material, and you have to play into that game with them, right? So that's like you have to just kind of change the way you're going to look at things. And I think this artist did that fantastically. Really understood how to approach this particular subject using a pen, using charcoal, using graphite, and painting. I mean, that last painting, and that set of four, whatever, is just a beautiful, beautiful hand study. That's something I'd see at like a grad school or something. So it's just really well done. Just this is someone that strikes me that they will just have a teacher and they will learn everything, and then just move forward and move forward and move forward. So that's another wonderful strength as an artist, to always be absorbing, mastering, and moving on. I would like to see though, there were some like ones that were a little inconsistent to me. There's like some gems in here, and then I see somewhere I'm like, why did you just get lazy like that? Like the wrist in the middle, 61 to 67 page we were just looking at, there's this curving wrist. Yeah, it's right there, right smack dab in the middle. In my head, I'm like, you have this beautiful hand. Why do you destroy it with this wrist that looks like it's being bent like rubber? Just take that extra 2 minutes and resolve that, or not even resolve it, but just make it a little more accurate. And that wrist above it too feels a little bit bendy. So are these like little fundamental drawing things that I think that this artist could work on? And I have no doubt that they will really tackle that. That would have been my biggest critique, is that I'm still seeing just fundamental drawing quote mistakes, right? Things that tend to make it a little cartoonish from time to time, because I'm noticing some concavities versus convexities, right? As we go to school, maybe you study the human form, for instance, a very popular subject for a lot of artists to kind of springboard off their career and go somewhere else. A huge concept that we learned from any school is that the body is filled with convexities. You have flesh built on top of bone. So anytime you put flesh and fat and skin, you're just adding material, and it just gets more rounded. So don't carve out areas like an ice cream scoop. You know, make a concavity there. It just tends to make it look a little stylistic in a cartoon way. And I see that from time to time. But you know, it's like I have way more praise than I do critique for this set, which is, I think, a part of the reason why I was voting for Peter to win. But I hope that, you know, that little criticism of just kind of always going back to the drawing fundamentals, employing them, you know, don't let them just kind of go off on their own, like rein that in, you know, so that you really crystallize the drawing and you just don't let it fall apart for some goofy little wrist or something like that. But it was a beautiful set, and I just, again, am echoing basically everything that Ilya was saying. Yeah.
No. No, well, actually, you like what you really did echo is that when you were talking about how there are these like specific moments where he's not putting as much effort into one hand as something else, and it falls apart because of this. The moment you started saying that is when I started to think that, like the second before that, I was looking at him again and I was like, yep. And then you said it. So nice.
How did you guys feel about the paintings at the end? Because I don't know if anyone mentioned those.
Oh no, I loved them. They were. I mean, I think all of us, right, during the meeting when we were voting, we were just like blown away, and for the effort, right? I mean, you got painting, you have to set up all your paints. There's all this other stuff that you got to do logistically, but they turned out great. I mean, they're just really beautiful light, really wonderful tones and hues, and it really just looks really sophisticated to me, that painting. So
fantastic.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so great advice from the judges. Thank you again for joining us. If you're seeing this and you want to participate, you just have to go to the New Masters Academy Discord channel. This month for February, the challenge is animal drawing. So you have to pick an animal of any species you want, real animals, not imaginary. You're going to pick a real animal. You're going to do like a model sheet where you're drawing its skeleton from the side, and then you're going to draw a top view, front view, and side view. So that's page 1. And then on page 2, you're going to try to use the analysis that you did to make a finished drawing or painting. So we'll be looking at both of those images. So far, the judges include Glenn Vilpu and Joe Weatherly, and I may be the third judge. We are working on another sort of famous artist that we're hoping to get, so there might be a change. Currently it's me, might be somebody better suited for it, but get involved right now. So these challenges are a great way. It gives you a reason, and whether it's the competitive element or whether it's the collaborative element or it's just the deadline or it's the hopes of getting a critique or hopes of winning a prize, whatever it is that can motivate you to do 100 hands to do these kinds of studies, take advantage of that. Our psychology doesn't just work in terms of sabotaging us. We can also use it to get what we want in terms of improving our skills. So highly recommend everybody participate in that. Thank you so much to the judges. Again, Camille, you can check her out on Instagram. Same thing with Miles. Same thing with Ilya. Definitely check out Portrait Party Club and Ilya's coaching program as well at New Masters Academy. And unless there's anything else, I think we're good. I think we got it.
Actually, can I say one thing?
Sure.
I just want anyone who's listening or watching or who participated, really want you guys to know that we were kind of, because we're judging, we have to stay, we have to abide by kind of a strict criteria just so that we're all on the same page. But we saw so many great drawings, like so many. But some of them they weren't operating within the criteria that we kind of were utilizing. So we saw, Ilya and I saw one person that we both agreed on, that it was like awesome artwork. It was beautiful to look at, like so much, but it just didn't fit into our rubric. So anyone who participated, I really want you guys to know, at least coming from me, that there was a lot of fantastic work. So if you didn't get mentioned, don't take that to heart at all. This was just a competition within a very kind of strict sort of point of view. But again, I just want to make sure you guys know that there was a lot of beautiful work, a lot of unique work. So it
definitely.
was just overall awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we will sign off and keep drawing. Hope to see you on Discord. Bye-bye.
Bye,
All right,
everyone.
bye. Take care.
Congratulations. Oh, all right.